Welcome to Math 1314. This is the last part of section 2.3. We're still looking at graphs and trying to get some information from them. Alright, so let's see. Here in question 1, we are given a picture. And from this picture, which is just a collection of dots, that's it, just dots, they want us to determine the domain and the range of this function. Well, first off, there are no connecting lines at all, just the dots. So what that means is that my function, we'll call it f, is simply just a collection of ordered pairs. -4, 4, -3, -2, -1, -1, 0, -3, and 4, 0. Remember, what that means is the first number is the input, the second number is the output. So that says -4 produces -4, -3 produces -2, and so on for all of the numbers. Well, the domain is the collection of inputs. Alright, so let's look here. The inputs are simply the numbers -4, -3, -1, 0, and 4. So just those single numbers. There's no interval here to worry about. The range is the collection of outputs. Alright, and so the range is the collection of those outputs, which is just those 5 numbers. Alright, in question 2 here, they're giving us the graph, and from this graph they want us to figure out again the domain and the range. Well, let's take the range first. The range is simply how high and how low does the graph go. Well, looking at this picture, the graph goes down forever, so there is no lowest. And so it goes from -infinity all the way up forever to +infinity. So range is low to high. The domain is how far left and how far right. Well, the assumption you see is this graph keeps opening outward. Therefore, I have inputs that keep marching to the left forever. And again, even though it's going slowly, this is working its way to the right, and therefore these inputs are also used. And so the domain is -infinity to infinity. Again, domain is the input axis, which is x, how far left, how far right. The range is on the y-axis in terms of how low and how high. Alright, question 3 here. Let's see. I've got this flipped over looking function. Let's talk about the range again, because that's generally quick. The range is how high? Well, it never goes any higher than 2, and it goes down forever. Alright, so let's see, down forever, so this is -infinity, and it goes as high as +2. And again, this thing opens up to the left forever, opens up to the right forever. And if I'm looking at what inputs do that, it's the whole x-axis. So the domain is -infinity to infinity, and the range we saw was -infinity up to the highest of 2. Alright, in question 4, they are giving us a graph here, and they're going to ask us a number of questions about this graph. So let's take a look at it. Let's see. This end comes up forever. All right, I see that part. This one is staying at a height of 2 all the way to the right forever. The lowest this thing goes is -4. All right, doesn't go any lower. It has this little break in this section. All right, so let's see. What else can I say about this thing? X-intercepts. Where does this thing cross the x-axis? Well, it crosses at -4 and 0. All right. Other than that, let's see. They want us to figure out f of -2. All right, so come here, -2 is an input, and the output is -4. Okay. What about f of 3? All right, let's see. Come back here. Where is 3? There's an input of 3. I go find the graph. That seems to be at a height of 2. And so f of 3 is 2. All right. Question 3 here, or part 3 of 8 of these. Find all the inputs. So I want to find all the inputs which make a output of -1. All right, let's come back to the graph and take a look at that. So in red here, I've drawn a line for -1. If this line intersects my graph anywhere, it'll give me the inputs that would produce an output of -1. Well, pretty clearly here, if I plug in 1, I'll get -1. Here, if I plug in -1, I'll be at that dot, which is -1. And if I come over here somewhere in between -3 and -4, that output is -1 as well. So there are 3 inputs that would give me an output of -1. Now, in a question in just a moment, they're going to ask us for the inputs that produce an output of -4. So again, I'm drawing this line at -4. Where does it intersect the graph? Well, let's see. F of -2 would give me -4, and f of 2 would give me an output of -4. All right, so let's come back here. So this was the one, all the inputs that gave me an output of -1. In part 4, again, we're looking for all of the inputs, all of the x's, which make a output of -4. And we saw there were 2 numbers that did that. In part 5, we're looking for the x-intercepts. Where does the graph cross the x-axis? Well, we already noted where those were at. Part 6, determine the y-intercept. That's where does the graph touch the y-axis? Well, let's look here. Well, we can see from this graph, the y-intercept, the place it touches, is at 0, 0. All right, so what about the domain and the range? Well, let's talk about the domain. Let's see. Do we go left forever? Well, yes. See, this graph is going to keep expanding that way. So it does have inputs to the left forever. Now we keep coming this way. All of these numbers produce an output. And all of these numbers produce something along there to the right forever. And so the domain is everything. plug in anything from the number line that you like. Well, what about the range? Let's see. How low does this thing go? Well, the lowest it ever gets is -4. And what about going up forever? Well, let's see. This side doesn't. It just levels off at 2. But this side keeps going up forever. Therefore, it does produce an output that keeps growing and growing and growing. And so the range is -4 to infinity. So lots of good information looking at the graph of a function.